Well, hello everybody. Sorry, we're just a couple minutes late here. This is live. I probably works if I bring my microphone over here for you guys, but I'm just going to be checking my social media to make sure that this stream is correctly going to Facebook because I have been oppressed there before. So looks like it is live on Facebook. All right, everyone. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring on Karla Wagner, my guest here today. And Karla, I'm so glad that you carved out this time with me. Is my audio okay on your end?
Yep. I
Okay.
can totally hear you, Kristen, and thank you for making the time for me as well.
Yes. Well, of course, a lot of people were looking forward to watching this. I will keep this live up. And for those watching, this is streaming live on my X account, which is at Kristen Megan. This is also airing on YouTube at Kristen Megan TV and live on Facebook for Kristen Megan Kelly. I will be uploading this interview on my Rumble channel, and you can continue to replay and share. And I will be able to put on Instagram and other social media sites to make sure that people are being given the correct information about this citizens-led petition, AxMiTax. Now, when I first heard about this, I wanted to connect with Karla, and Karla, I believe you were also told to connect with me. So why don't you tell people watching your background and why you got this started?
Okay, so real quick, I am a licensed real estate agent. I'm a licensed builder. I currently own a small restaurant and a little retail shop, small, in Rockford, just outside of Rockford, Michigan, of course. I was a fully uniformed volunteer deputy with Kent County Sheriff's Department. I have been a small business owner like almost all of my life. I did work at a bank for a short amount of time and had my securities license, which meant I could do stock trading and stuff. And I have prepared tax returns for about 12 years. It's been a couple years since I've done that. But so numbers is my game. And all of my small businesses were totally affected during COVID, which I started researching property taxes prior to COVID, but COVID really brought it to the forefront, right? Because we saw so many small businesses being decimated and still having to pay property taxes, utilities, insurances, and all those other kind of things.
You know, you and I talked, we won't get into the weeds here. It was a private conversation, but I am known as somebody, I speak out against taxation. I have taxation is theft is all over my office. I come from the Ron Paul Revolution. Taxation is theft was in my wedding vows. And one of the misconceptions about me when it comes to people who attack me is they think just because I think taxation is theft, that I don't pay my taxes. For the record, yes, I do. I just filed my theft return and currently getting audited by the state, which there's nothing wrong there. So take your time, Whitmer. But I understand the issues that we have involving taxation and why ethically and morally, I believe it is theft. And I come from, again, the Ron Paul Revolution, where he's explained it ad nauseum that we should be pay to play. And we have a very socialist society around us. That is not how our country was founded. So when I heard about this petition, full disclosure, because of my rating as a disabled veteran, I am exempt from property taxes. And a lot of states afford that to disabled veterans with certain ratings. Some states are 100, 60, 80, or you get a discount. So there is a recognized aspect of a group of people who may not have enough income to cover their property taxes. What I mean by that is there are some veterans who are rated at 100% that cannot work or they're retired. I'm rated at 100%, but I'm not, like missing limbs. It doesn't mean you can't work. That's a misconception. So knowing that people are on fixed incomes with VA disability payments, they made an exemption for them. Why is this not done for people, at least who are retired on Social Security? So I would like to dive into what are the biggest misconceptions about this petition? And clearly, what would this petition do if we got it on the ballot and it was passed?
Yeah, so number one, if we get the signatures, it'll go on the ballot and we'll have the opportunity to vote to totally eliminate all property taxes in Michigan. So that is for homeowners, farmers, and businesses. And the reason why I kind of break them out, because a lot of people own homes. For farmers, it could be their home and their business. But then we also have small, medium, and large businesses across Michigan. There would be no property tax. People go, well, what about those people that live out of state, Karla? They live in Indiana and they own a cabin in Michigan. No property tax. No property tax in the state of Michigan. So I want to be very clear on that. And I think it will be beneficial to everyone in the state of Michigan. Doesn't matter if you are a property owner or if you are a renter, your landlord is paying property taxes, which he is passing on to you. Correct? So that's the first part. That's the first part of your question. It gets rid of all property taxes in the state of Michigan.
And I just want to add to that really quick what you just said about how basically people, even if they don't own their home, they're feeling it. I have several friends who just this past week told me that their rent is going up quite a bit. One friend, the rent is going up $300 and they currently pay $1,200. Some people do live paycheck to paycheck in this economy, and that can be a make or break situation on whether they have to decide which bill they're going to pay.
Yes.
Or I remember when I was younger and not where I'm at now, the predatory payday loans were always thrown at people in the military. And I'm glad you pointed that out because this affects everybody and it's nonpartisan, regardless of which party affiliation, this affects everybody.
I want to talk about the renters because that's probably maybe the smallest group that I address, because even though Michigan is now about 30% renters, Detroit is 44%, Grand Rapids is about 36, 38%. Okay. The whole state, across the state, we're about 30% renters. I have no problem with renters. But what I do see is that, like you said, we're hearing a lot about housing being unaffordable. Rent is unaffordable. Okay. Why is rent unaffordable? Rent is unaffordable, because their insurance, of course, is going up, utilities are going up, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of renters out there that don't understand when they go out and vote yes on a millage. They don't think it's going to affect them because they don't own a home. They're not paying property tax. So they go, great, I can go and vote for this millage, for the zoo, for the museum, for the transit. I can go and vote yes on all of those millages because it's not going to affect me. Someone else is going to pay property tax. Someone else is going to pay for that service for me, right? Yay, I get something for free. They have to start connecting the very important dots, which mean if you go and vote yes on a millage, or even if the millage passes without that particular renter voting yes, I will guarantee that their rent is going up because their landlord's property taxes just went up. That landlord is also living on a margin of profit. He has to rent the apartment out for X amount of dollars to cover all of the expenses, his insurance, the utilities, if he pays any, all of that stuff, plus to cover the rent. Now he has this huge amount of property taxes because it's not a homestead. It doesn't have a homestead exemption. It is basically a commercial property. They're paying commercial property taxes. When anyone goes and raises that landlord's property tax, of course your rent is going to go up because he has to pass that through in order to maintain his margin of profitability, or he would sell the dang thing and go put his money somewhere else, right? So people like to complain that their landlords are these big, mean, nasty people. But really, all they're trying to do is make a living, just like those people that go to work to pay their rent. It's the same thing. But they need to start connecting the dots. If they want the rent to go down, they better stop going out and voting for all of those millages where they think they're getting a free service because it's reflected in their rent.
You're exactly right. And I always say, because this used to be me a long time ago, people who don't pay attention to politics always say, I don't care, it doesn't affect me. Well, we're living in a world now where everything is affecting us that our government is doing. If you're young, you're a college student, if you're renting, you're buying, you're a business owner, you're feeling it. And so, like I said before, I am property tax exempt, and I wish everyone else was afforded this opportunity. Now, I have my youngest daughter. I have a daughter in college. My youngest daughter goes to a private school that I pay for myself. So I would be very angry if I was still forced to fund a school that my child does not attend. And I am in Ottawa County and I fall under the Hudsonville School District. And they passed a millage in the past that allowed them to build this giant, not needed sports complex when they actually needed parking. Those millages, when we are adulting and we tell ourselves want versus needs, we have to look at, do we really need this? How does it benefit the community? How many people is it benefiting? Because they said when they built this field house, this sports complex, that it could be used for other things. Now, I guarantee you, if I wanted to use it to hold like a Liberty event and have speakers come in, I'd be denied on the whole disguise of favoring one political party over the other. So I want to dive into the school issue because I have people that come to my page and I don't censor speech unless it's ad hominem or defamatory. But that's part of the reason I wanted to do this interview. There are people that are going around. Some of these people are well known. They are completely pushing out misinformation and causing mass confusion. And I don't know if it's on purpose or it has to do with something that impacts their pockets. I don't know. I'm not going to accuse anyone. But what would happen with the schools, fire, police, all of these essential services? I say that because yes, I believe emergency response is essential, but again, I have a child in private school. But what would you say to these people that make it sound like the world is going to end if we remove the property taxes? Because I don't think people realize not all of it stays local.
You know what, Kristen? I think you're right. When we have been brainwashed to believe that the world will come to an end if we don't pay property taxes, because what is the penalty for not paying them? Loss of your home, your farm, or your business. That's a pretty severe penalty for not paying a tax. So in our minds, we think, oh my God, I better pay that because if I don't, the world is going to come to the end, the sky is going to fall, and I'm going to lose my home. So we have been brainwashed to believe that the state must totally exist on property taxes. And it doesn't. So I'm going to break this down real quick. I think of zoos, like I live in Kent County. I pay for a zoo I've never been to, hardly at all since third grade. I pay for a museum. And I don't think there's transit here in Kent County, but there is transit in Kentwood. So I have a vacant piece of property in Kentwood that pays for a transit. Okay. Those things should be paid by consumption. If you go, you pay, just like you say, pay to play. Why are they on my property tax bill? Why am I going to risk losing my house for the monkey in a zoo? That is so retarded. I can't even begin to believe how retarded that is and how that has ever even been allowed to happen. But people are losing their property because there's a millage on their property tax bill that puts them over the edge and makes it unaffordable. So which one of those millages is it? So let's get those off. If we looked at a property tax bill and said, here's all the millages, let's look at the fluffy ones, right? The fluffy ones, zoos, museums, transit in Holland. I think in Ottawa County, or at least in Holland, they're paying for a private airport, right? I mean, you're paying for all kinds of stuff. You don't even know what you're paying for, but let's get those off. Pay to play. I want to talk about the schools because what people don't understand is that the local school millages, I'm in Rockford, so mine is Rockford Public Schools. I have 4 millages right now on my property tax bill that all go to Rockford Public Schools. It is not for education. It is not for teacher salary. It is not for anything to do with curriculum or books or anything like that. It's for playground equipment and football fields. It's for building maintenance. It's for mowing the grass, right? One of them is Rockford Public Schools operating. One is Rockford Public School debt. Well, how in the heck, how long has that debt been there, right? We don't even know. One is Rockford Public Schools Parks and Recs, which I mean playground equipment, 2.5 million a year for the next 20 years for playground equipment. And then you have your building and site. Okay. None of that has to do with the education of the kids. We keep renewing them 15 years, 20 years, this, that, whatever else. And that money is just going, I want to see the financials. I want to see the need for that money. I want to know why we're paying 10 to 15 to 20 years and they just keep renewing them. Some of these high school football fields look like college stadiums and they keep redoing them constantly. It is time to start voting no on all of those local school millages because it doesn't affect the education of the kids and it shouldn't take 20 years to replace the AstroTurf on a football field. It shouldn't take 20 years to replace a merry-go-round on one playground. Shouldn't have to do it for that long. Go ahead.
I have voted no on every single millage that has ever been on a ballot where I live because I will never vote to increase taking other people's income to fund things they don't consent to. And don't think that I don't understand that we need a civil society. I understand the importance of law and order. I understand the need for emergency services, but I just want to kind of sidebar to a situation that came to mind when you were talking about people not understanding where their money is and how you want to see kind of like where the money is going with these schools. So I live in Ottawa County and I fully support our Ottawa Impact commissioners. And they went in and they made bold changes. They defunded the DEI department, which did nothing but promote racism. And then they began, and the media started attacking, claiming they were witch hunting the health department. But what they were doing was asking the health department leadership, please explain what services you're offering to include outside of the state mandated services. Because remember, there are some things that aren't mandated, that are above and beyond that are offered. They just wanted to know, what are you offering and who is using them? And it took over a year to get that answer. And it's because so many of these government employees and services have gone unchecked. And right now, there's audits going on. People have misused the COVID funds. The misconception is that, I'll just end it with this. This should have opened the eyes of many, is that in the media, you may have heard it, they wanted to defund the health department. They shut down something called Ottawa Foods. And then recently it came to light that there was actually an excess of around 1.5 million that the health department had while crying that they were broke. And really all they defunded was the COVID money. So not only when we do ethically and logically remove funds to give money back to the people and use those funds appropriately, then comes the defund. So how would we ensure that the key services that most people can agree on, which is fire response and medical response and, peace officers coming out and making sure everything's okay, how would we ensure that that is funded when a part of their funding would be removed through the elimination of income or property tax?
Yep. And that is a very good question. And that is my concern. As I was a volunteer deputy with Kent County, the last people I want to defund are the police, because I'm like you. I not only have a home that I want to protect, I have a business that I want to protect. And I can guarantee that I'm not going to call the library when I need a policeman. So when everybody throws, oh, you're going to get rid of property taxes, how are we going to fund all of these services? Well, let's fund the essential services first. Okay, maybe we need to put some of those other services aside to make sure that our essential services, police, fire, and road commission, we need those, because in Michigan, we need the road commission to plow and salt the roads so the police and fire can get to us in the wintertime, right? That makes sense. And we need to know that we have to keep our townships operating because they host our elections. They run the elections for us, right? And they also make zoning laws and enforcement. So we need to keep the township operating expenses. We need to keep some of the county operating expenses. But I think there's a lot of things in both of those budgets that are grossly mismanaged and money is overspent on. So just for an example, when you say, how are we going to fund those? Every township in the state of Michigan, and there's 1,240 townships in the state of Michigan, we currently get money. It's called general revenue sharing of the sales tax. Okay, the general sales tax, like my restaurant pays sales tax. I send that. I collect sales tax from people at my retail store and at my restaurant. I have to send that sales tax to the state of Michigan. It goes into that bucket, and I think you have the budget poster there.
I do. You want me to go ahead and pull that up?
You know what? Go ahead and pull that up a minute. While we're talking about this, I'll show people where that goes.
Oh, my mouse was haunted. Hold on just a second. All right, let me go to that so that I can go.
So just scroll down just a little bit further.
All right, hold on just a
or
second.
up, or whichever way you got to go. I want to go to the middle of the page a little bit more.
All right, let me pull that up so I can scroll. Okay, let's scroll up here.
Let's
So this is if you want to explain this and let me know when you want me to scroll down.
Yeah, this is the House Fiscal Agency poster that comes right out of Lansing. It's dated November 2022. So I'm not sure if these are 2021 numbers. Could be 2021 numbers that we're looking at, but it's the flow. So just go down a little bit further. I want to go to the sales tax bucket, which is in about the middle of the page.
Right here.
All right here. There's the sales tax bucket. Okay, so when I talk about all 1,240 townships get a portion of that sales tax bucket, you can see what's way down on the bottom. It's kind of a goldish color, goldish orange. Mm-hmm. That is the portion that the townships are getting out of that sales tax bucket. The part that's shaded blue is going to the general fund. The part that's shaded green is going to the school fund. That orangey rust color, gold color, whatever, is going to the townships. My township, Cannon Township, got $1.5 million out of that bucket last year. Okay, that's just one township got 1.5. It's based on population. Okay. That alone would totally fund our fire department. That's more, that 1.5 is more than what Cannon spends on its fire department. Okay. Our proposal is going to increase that percentage. It's not going to increase the sales tax percent. It'll still stay at 6%. We want to increase the percentage of that bucket that the townships receive.
This lower amount? Okay.
Yes. So instead of 15% of the original 4% of sales tax, we want it to be 20% of the original 4% of sales tax. So we're asking for a bigger chunk of that bucket to be given to the townships. So my township, in effect, would then maybe get $2.2 million. So it, again, will more than cover their fire department and then still have other money for other things. But here's an example of other revenue. My township last year or the year before had $121,000 in building permits, $121,000 in revenue, $121,000 in building permits, $35,000 in electrical permits, $50,000 in mechanical permits, $25,000 in plumbing permits, other sources of revenue, right? They have other ways to get that money. The scary thing to me is the fact that as I look through this, just in our general fund alone, we made $45,000 in interest. There's another department that made $11,000. Here's one that projecting in the sewer budget, they're projecting $40,000 in interest. I didn't think that government entities were supposed to be for profit. How much money do you have to have stashed away if you're making $100,000 a year in interest? Where is that? Why do we have an excess? And all I can say, Kristen, is that if we want the government to spend less money,
Mhm.
We have to send them less money to spend.
You're exactly right. I worked for the federal government for 12 years and I was in charge of many multi-million dollar budgets. And I was told right before the end of the fiscal year, it was like started in August, start looking for anything you want. I mean, it was ridiculous things that they wanted us to buy, even if we didn't need new equipment. It was, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it.
Yeah.
And that is not, that makes no sense in any other facet.
Because it's our money. They're talking about.
Yeah. Let me just
We are
spend all the
losing
money.
our
Let me drain my
homes.
checking account.
Right.
You know,
We are losing our homes. We are losing the state's property, our private owned properties, because as someone in one township called me and said, Karla, they just planted a $17,000 tree in front of our township hall. Now, is that a prime example of use it or lose it? How many other we had in Cannon Township, they had people that were making, let me see, in 1 year they made, I got to find it here. I mean, the salary for one person went up from like 60,000 to 85,000. $25,000 raise. What the heck is that? And then it's the pension and the health insurance and all that other stuff that goes along with it. They're trying to get rid of the money. They're trying to say, here's what the proposed budget is going to be, but we're actually going to jump it up to this. Maybe we could get by with a 30,000, but we're going to ask for 40,000 because we've got so much money, we need to get rid of it. We had our township supervisor say, I'm going to reduce the township's operating expenses by 5%. And everybody went, oh my gosh, thank you. That's so great. That's so wonderful. Thank you for looking out for us. But I'm like, people, your property values went up by 5%. Your value went up by 5%. So when you got reassessed, do you think the township lost any money when they reduced the operating expenses by 5%? No. The operating millage, they reduced the operating millage by 5% and received accolades over that. But I'm like, but your property values also went up by 5%. So they're not losing any money. They're not looking after you. They're just trying to get rid of or hide some of this because it's embarrassing.
and one thing, you working real estate, part of my job is construction safety. And I think we talked about this offline before. One of the things that I see to happen is anytime someone improves a home, they turn a storage area into a different type of room. When they know that when they alert and get their permits and they alert their township or county, they are going to come back and assess the property of their home. And now they have a higher taxable value. And I have seen this in my profession. This causes, not everyone, people to circumvent that process. And now you have horrible electrical wiring. People try to DIY everything that takes skill. Plumbing is done improperly, and you get these kind of like MacGyver makeshift construction projects.
Yep.
So they actually create an unsafer and greater problem when you are not incentivizing people to work on their homes and put money back in. You're investing in yourself when you do something to your house, because then when you go to sell, yes, it's at a higher value, but we are constantly taxed at every corner. And speaking of that, I just wanted to tell everyone, you should go look up the documentary, America from Freedom to Fascism. That is America from Freedom to Fascism. It's a documentary I watched over 10 years ago. And when you see, and it is spelled out to you, if you're a visual learner, you will see how many different times we are taxed. And then you can tell yourself, I think we can get rid of these property taxes because our government has their hand in many other pots.
Exactly. And you know what, Kristen, there's townships or counties or cities like Detroit that talk about blighted properties. Well, they're blighted because people can't afford to fix up their house because they're paying a heinous property tax. They're paying property taxes, which means they can't afford to fix up their house. But if they do fix up their house, you're exactly right, they get even higher property taxes. So if you want the neighborhoods to look nice, stop charging people based on property tax. And it's just, when you think about property tax and the damage that it does, it strips us of our private property. We lose our equity. We lose the possibility of generational wealth. You know, those are things that they don't want us to have anyway, right? We know that.
Mm-hmm.
But why is the penalty for not paying for a service we don't want or use? Why is it so stiff? Why, it's extortion. Because and I've talked to people that have said, well, Karla, how are you going to make sure people will pay their, if we just bill them without the leverage of them losing their home if they don't pay the bill, how can we guarantee that they're going to pay it? And I'm like, I don't know, find a way to do it without taking people's property, because that is what's wrong. And you're so right, Kristen. Everywhere you go across the state of Michigan, you could find a $300,000 house in every county. They would all pay different taxes. There's nothing uniform about it. Nothing makes sense about it. And then we have the people that own property and paying property taxes. We already talked about the renters, right? And then let's talk about how many entities are out there that aren't paying property tax. They own property in Michigan and they're not paying property tax, right? So number one, we know that Governor Whitmer took billions of our hard-earned tax dollars. She paid foreign entities, basically bribed or paid foreign entities to come into Michigan, buy up our land, and then she forgave them property tax. You don't have to pay property tax. You don't have to pay property tax. Why the heck are we paying property tax when these foreign entities don't have to pay? We're losing our homes and they're getting our land. I mean, it's so ridiculous. And then you know that all the government entities, the schools, the township halls, the fire departments, the libraries, they don't pay property tax. So does that mean that if my township hall starts on fire, is the fire truck not going to go there? Even though it's sitting right there, it's not going to go there because they don't pay property tax? Does that mean that if the township hall is getting broken into, the cops aren't going to show up? Of course they're going to. Well, then why aren't they paying for those services? But you could have a retail. I mean, I think there's some Goodwills that don't pay property tax. They're retail because they're nonprofit. They say they don't have to pay property tax because they're nonprofit, but it's a retail store and they pay their CFO tons of money and they still pay for insurances and they pay for utilities and they pay for some of their other expenses. Why would they not pay for police and fire protection?
And I always try to kind of play both sides of things. I made it very clear. I think taxation is theft. But if it's going to exist, the argument, like you just said, like we dealing with this Goshen plant up in, I believe, Mecosta, where the Chinese company is getting this huge tax break. There's a lot of companies that will be enticed to come here when they're promised a tax break. But if every business had the ability to go, oh, I don't have to be on this side of whatever aisle is offering the tax break. We can be nonpartisan. We can come in and we can hire and create new jobs. And when you create new jobs, what do? You bring in other people that come back to the state and then contribute through sales tax, gas tax, excise tax, death tax, every tax times pi. I'm telling you, watch American Freedom to Fascism. The TV scrolls for minutes explaining to you every single tax that is paid. So when I always can counter arguments about the tax issue, because I'm like, although I'm against it, by doing this, you actually bring in more money.
That is exactly right. Because if there was no property tax in the state of Michigan, number one, you're correct. The governor, the current governor or any governor could not pick winners and losers because that's what they're doing right now. Picking winners and losers, right? If there's no property tax, we won't have to pay businesses to come to Michigan. So that's a savings right there, right? That $3 billion that we paid last year for businesses to come into Michigan could have gone down to the counties to help the counties pay for essential services. And we'll talk about that later. If there's no property tax, the businesses will come to Michigan because there's no property tax. And there's not only no property tax on the land that they're buying, but if they are buying goods from other businesses inside of Michigan, the goods that they buy, the raw material or the raw supplies that they buy will also be less because that business isn't paying property tax, right? Makes sense?
And they're generating more state tax.
And then when you have people, When you have jobs, when you have businesses coming to Michigan, now you're going to attract those people back to Michigan because there's no property taxes and there's jobs. And like you said, when there's jobs, people create state income tax, more corporate business tax on those businesses, more sales tax, more excise tax, more everything. So those buckets on that budget sheet, the state income tax bucket will grow and expand. The corporate business tax bucket will expand. The sales tax bucket will expand, right? Alcohol, marijuana tax, lottery, excise, real estate transfer tax, all of those taxes we pay, all of those buckets will go like that. If you can bring that budget poster back up, the state property tax bucket is only 2.5 billion state property tax. The state only receives $2.5 billion across the state from property tax. Our budget now, our spending is 84 billion. Think about that, 2.5 billion. But that tax is the most heinous because it not only takes away our private property, it stunts our growth. It stunts all of our economic growth. Governor Whitmer knows that people are leaving Michigan in droves.
I just saw another commercial on social media where she was telling people why they should come back. And, you know, I had my oldest daughter, she made a funny TikTok video when the election results came back and that Whitmer was reelected. And she did this funny thing of her like taking her suitcase to her car. Well, she really did. She moved to Florida. My daughter's very libertarian, but this is not, when you are a 19-year-old and you're feeling the pain of the economy at 19. I remember when we drove somewhere, everyone pitched in $1 or $2 of gas. Now friends need to pitch in $10, $15 of gas.
Yeah.
I mean, this is affecting everyone of every age, religion, creed, political party. And this is why I am so shocked, because when it comes to people who should support this, I would think anyone that leans more right, because we are the ones that are usually talking about reducing taxes.
We're the one paying the taxes.
I am so shocked to see what I recently learned from watching a film from a Dr. Robert Malone, which is bad jacketing. And that is where people are purposely handicapped and attacked through disinformation to get the public to believe it. And there is someone in Kent County that holds an elected position who literally, you can call her out if you want. I will if you don't. But there's people who are sharing. I saw someone share a video from 7 months ago, before you even were able to start getting the petition circulated. And it was a leftist attorney through Whitmer explaining how harmful this was. Well, when you're the benefactor and you're working for the government, of course you're going to want your cash cow to come in.
Yeah. And they sent that to the Board of Commissioners across the state. So I thought that was quite funny because that lawyer was in the Board of Canvassers meetings with us. And he just kept going, we're going to sue you. We're going to sue you. We're going to sue you. Because they wanted to stop it and never let it get out to the public. This is so scary, Kristen, because I went through those Board of Canvassers. We went there multiple months. And I thought, you know what? They're just sandbagging us. Because they never wanted this petition to see the light of day. Those 4 people on that Board of Canvassers board, right? Those 4 people, they wanted to take the opportunity away from every single person in Michigan to be able to see, sign, and vote to eliminate property taxes, because they wanted to stop it there in the Board of Canvassers meeting. They never
democracy.
You know what? And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is how hard it is. This is why there's nobody wants to do petitions except when the other side wants to do them on other certain issues. But it was horrible, the process that you have to go through to get this to see the light of day. And I'm like, and the fact that they took us off the agenda in December, but that is when that podcast was made by that attorney, Democrat, left-leaning Whitmer representative attorney, who said, we're going to sue you because they don't want the people to have the choice to even see this petition or have the ability to sign or vote on it, right? That's just wrong. That 4 people could decide whether you're going to lose your home or not for a property tax. the property tax. And I have had a township supervisor tell me, well, Karla, people vote yes on millages and that increases their property taxes. And I said, but what about all the people that vote no? Because they don't support the service, they don't use the service, they won't need the service, and they're trying to tell you that they can't afford the service. That's why they vote no. And one more person can go and vote yes and saddles everybody else with a whole bunch of debt. And it's retarded, right? And somebody else is going to decide whether you lose your home or not. Someone else is going to decide whether you can afford property taxes and whether you're going to be able to stay on your property. That is totally wrong.
I thought of you the other day. I was in a store and I have no idea how I got into the conversation about, I think we were just talking about interest rates and the economy and home values. And I said, actually, why I have your attention, I explained about this petition. And before I could even proceed, one of the gentlemen, and I'm paraphrasing, told me that like his family member was providing legal counseling for elderly people that are really being impacted and are losing their homes over property taxes. And I said, well, this was divine that we just ran into each other, because this person had not even heard about the petition. So I gave them information. Hopefully they shared it with that family member to help get these elderly people to share it in their communities and their church services. Because again, this is nonpartisan. And I just want to point out that there are large businesses, small businesses, and factions of government that have had to cut spending. So for a moment, let's just take some company. We're just going to call it the Smith Company. And let's say they had a product or service that because of safety and health violations or something, they had to remove that service that they used to make a whole bunch of money on. Now it's only focused on, say, like these products or services. That company has to restructure their budget, don't they? Because they lost a revenue source. It doesn't mean that that company goes out of business. I see this all the time. I have seen this in aircraft industries where they actually had to shut down a process or service because the part that the part or chemical they need to use has now been outlawed. So my whole point is, if this can be done with small and large businesses all the time, the media, the people who don't understand this, will use fear to dissuade people from signing this petition. So I want to get into the petition. Where are you at? What are the most common mistakes with the petitions? I've seen you make posts reminding people to fill them out. And when is the deadline to get these petitions handed in?
Yep. We are seeking 600,000 signatures. The main thing is that, people have circulated petitions before, so they just assume like, I know how to do this. I know how to do this. We're being very particular with ours because we know they're going to get scrubbed really hard, looked at really hard. People are, it's easy to sign. Here's a signature, right? That can be an X. If that's your signature, and if you put an X on your driver's license and your voter registration card, you could put an X in the signature. But in where it's printed, the printed name is supposed to be like it is on your driver's license. And then it asks for your street address. So that should be your house number and your street name only. In the next box, it says city or township. That means where you go to vote. It's not your mailing address. I live, my mailing address is Rockford. I vote in Cannon Township. Cannon Township sends me my property tax bill.
I'm Hudsonville and I vote in Jamestown Township. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep. So you would write Jamestown. I would write Cannon because it's where you go to vote. We're trying to get people to do black ink only. We don't need red. We don't need green, black ink. Sharpie markers. Some people have used markers and it bleeds through to the back side of the petition. That's going to be an issue. I've had people take the 2 pages of the petition and separate them. That's going to be an issue. I can't send those in because it's the whole, the folded page is the whole petition. I can't send it in 2 separate parts, right? Mm-hmm. The dates we want to be 2 digits, 4 digits, which would be today, like 04, 2022, 2024. Down in the circulators box, they kind of trick you because you put your name, your address, your city, your zip, and your state. And the next line says county of registration. But if you read that line all the way to the right, it says if you're not a resident of Michigan. But people keep putting their county name in there, and I don't know whether that's going to be, if that's going to be a problem, that's going to throw the whole sheet out, because that's the circulator, right? So we're trying to please don't fold them, because they're already 2 parts. We don't want them folded. We want them laid flat. We need to have them back here to me by June 15, because we still have a lot of work to do to them before we turn them into the Secretary of State's, because then they have to go through them and make sure that we have enough good ones to get it on the ballot.
And I just have scrolling at the bottom, people can go to AxMiTax.org or the Facebook group, which is AxMiTax.org on the road. If you start to type it up, it'll just populate. Yeah. That is where I think the Facebook page for people who have a Facebook is where you can ask questions. If you're confused or you want to know where you can sign, I have people comment on my page, I don't know where to sign. And I try to tell people, go to the group. I know in Ottawa County, we have lots circulating, but that is where people can ask questions. And I know that you'd rather have people ask the questions than assume. And I know you said you're looking at 600,000, but how many are actually required? Because I know people do always get extra.
I think it's like 446,227 or something like that is what the number is.
I don't know if you had answered, but when is the last day people can sign the petitions?
June 15. I want them back to me by June 15, because like I said, I've got some work to do to them. I got to research them, count them, batch them up, whatever, box them up, and get them to the Secretary of State. Because they're going to have time to go through them before they let us know if we have enough to get on the ballot or not. So it's a statewide thing. We're a very small little grassroots group. We do have a lot of people. I've probably hit 70 some plus counties now in Michigan. I have to be in St. Clair tonight. So that's like a 3-hour drive one way for me to do a presentation there. I'm always looking for more, exposure, more places to do presentations. So I kind of tell people, hey, I haven't been in Gogebic yet. I haven't been in Luce County in the UP yet. Please call me. I'll come, that kind of a thing.
You are.
But there's so much more to this, Kristen. We've only touched on such a small portion of this, because there's so much more to eliminating than property taxes than just the elimination of property tax. This is our time. This is our opportunity to stand up with this petition and say no more. We're done. Township, county, state, get your crap together. Stop spending our money on hip hop academies in Detroit and splash pads in Ann Arbor and curling facilities in Grand Traverse, because none of those things are going to do me any good. But that's where my tax.
Karla, you're not going to go do the worm at some hip hop class?
No, I'll see if I can find a place closer. I don't know, but I'm just looking at, again, my township just built a $560,000 pickleball court. I talked to a lady from another township, and she said, Karla, she goes, we only spend what we get from the state in general revenue sharing. We don't even have a township operating expense on the property tax bill. We only spend what we get. She goes, so when people come to us and say, how about a pickleball court? We tell them this township's not in the business of providing pickleball courts. If you want to go play pickleball, go get yourself a membership somewhere. Isn't that how it should be? I have townships that can totally eliminate their township operating expense budget from the property tax bill, because they currently get more from the state revenue sharing, and we're going to give them more. And we also want to make it constitutional for the counties to get the amount of money that they're supposed to get from the state, because right now it's only statutory, meaning it's up to the discretion of the governor. Well, our governor chose to spend $3 billion on foreign entities coming into Michigan and then forgiving them property taxes, where in reality, that $3 billion would have gone to the 83 counties.
Yeah.
83 counties would have gotten more money. I am looking at how to fund the sheriff's departments across the state, not through property taxes. I have ideas on how I can do that. I need to talk to some more of the sheriffs to figure out if it's viable. But I'm looking at every township. If you have a community of 15,000 people and you need $1.5 million to fix a road or a section of road or a bridge, charge everybody in the community $100, one and done. You're done. It doesn't need to be a 5-year millage. It doesn't need to be a 10-year millage, and nobody has to lose their home over it. You charge, it's like an HOA. If you live in an HOA, there's a road that you all live on, and it costs $12,000 for that road to maintain it, plow it, this, that, whatever else. If you have 12 houses that live on there, are some people going to pay more because their house is bigger than this person over there? No, you all pay $1,000. You all pay $1,000 to maintain that road, right? Isn't that what our communities should be doing?
Yeah. And I'll just tell you, even though how I feel about taxation, I do have a pay to play mindset. And I remember I got a bill recently for like 70 something dollars, and it said taxes on a property or something. And I kindly called my township and I said, what exactly is this? Because I want to make sure it wasn't to the school. And she said, no, we're doing a culvert replacement, which has to do with like water drainage and stuff. And I thought, okay, well, I use that road that they're doing it on. So that's fine. $70. That's my fair share. That is what I didn't complain, because I use the road. I do not use the library. I do not use a lot of the services that our taxes fund. As a veteran, I don't think I've at all sat by one of the veterans memorial statues. I mean, I don't speak for all veterans, but to me, that is not essential. That is stuff that should come out through fundraising, or, hey, all the people that are against this, how about you just sign the petition to allow we, the people of Michigan, to decide on the ballot, and then you can pay your $3,000 a year, $4,000 a year, whatever cost frame you're in. Why don't you just pay the fire departments?
Do it as a donation.
I'm not even being sarcastic.
Make it as a donation.
I did it. I used to do it before. Well, I'm not a fan of the Hudsonville superintendent. In fact, he lives down the road from me. And before he came in, and I've been property tax exempt for a while. I would donate, I'm not going to say, but I would donate quite a bit of money still to the school, because at the time my daughter went to Hudsonville, and I paid extra, and I paid off lunch debt. I donated to people who couldn't pay their sports thing. I still paid. It was a huge chunk of money. I still paid because I was trying to support a school that my daughter went to and help other low-income people. And that's not to toot my own horn. Now, when they all went woke, and don't get me started about Hudsonville anymore, but I don't want to support Hudsonville. I don't have a kid there anymore. I don't want to pay there. I pay $600 a month for my daughter to go to a private school, and I moved my spending around so I could afford that. But I truly mean it. People have to recognize this is a very important issue. We just watched our federal government hand over, regardless of how you feel about our foreign intervention. This is a fact, we are funding all sides of those conflicts, all sides. So we are having our federal tax dollars sent overseas, not taking care of our own country. We always take care of ourselves first. We can't do anything about it other than try to vote those people out. But what we can do, we can get more money in our pockets. We can make Michigan a place people want to come back to. We can bring in businesses. I'm very serious too. This is a mental health issue. How many marriages end because of financial stress? I mean, my husband and I are making some big decisions right now. Just to be real, like, I have a fifth wheel, and because I prefer now, I'm enjoying the cruise life. We won't be using it as much. And I've been trying to get rid of my fifth wheel for about 3 years, but because the economy went up and then down and up, I'm upside down on it, even though it's really nice. Like, I'm about $20,000 upside down on my fifth wheel. And just to even downsize to get a smaller one, do you know, because of the interest rates, my payment would actually be higher for something half the price. So I feel it too. And again, even though I'm exempt, I want everyone to be afforded the opportunity to have a couple extra $100 in their pockets a month that they can save, invest, do something else. But this is a massive issue, and people that are against it, you don't have to sign it, but you shouldn't be promoting falsehoods about it. I understand there are people that are like, this is a good idea, but it would have been better in a different year in the future. This thing is moving now. You can get with it. You don't have to put your own time and sweat behind it or your money. But what I want to tell my followers is after this interview, I'm going to donate $20. I can afford $20. Most people can afford $20. I'm asking all of my followers if you can wait till payday or you can afford $20 right now. Please donate. But Karla, where can people donate to help with these petitions, to help with your travel? You are like Carmen Sandiego. I can't even keep track of you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Kristen. Right on the website, AxMiTax.org, there's donation buttons on there. They can just go on there and donate, or they can, and I think on there might be an address. If they want to send a check, they can send a check as well. And that address would probably be on there. This is definitely grassroots. We have no big money behind us. We've done everything we can to get this out. People like yourself who are willing to have us come on here, and you're going to give us some great exposure. Justin Barkley, Steve Gruber. There's a couple of other people we've been able to do podcasts, things like that, but a lot of it has been me going out and doing the presentations. But it does take a lot. I want to go back to a couple of things that you said. I had a lady from the UP call me. She was a sitting councilwoman, right? And she goes, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a councilwoman, but, and I'm like, okay. And she really was like hammering at me, like, what, how are you, get rid of property taxes. What are you expecting us to do? How are we going to do this? And she started talking about, well, what about the roads? And what about this? And I said, well, wait a minute. I said, let's take one at a time. I said, let's talk about the roads. I said, what about the roads? Well, we got to fix the roads. And I said, well, do only the property taxpayers in your town use the roads? Silence. And I said, no. I said, maybe you didn't understand the question. Do only the property taxpayers in your town use the roads? Well, of course not. I said, okay, so you have a government entity in your town, and people that come to work there live out of town. So they live in the township or the county over, and they drive on your roads in your town to come to an entity to work that doesn't pay property taxes. I said, to me, that's a little bit of a problem, because why are your property taxpayers, why is little ma and pa kettle that live in their little farmhouse have to pay? And they probably hardly ever use the roads because they don't go out much. But this person that works outside of your area, outside of your town, drives into your town every day to work at an entity that doesn't pay property tax. So the entity's using your roads, that worker's using your roads, they're not paying for it, but this little couple over here has to pay for it, right? I just want people to think, if you need money, why are you asking for all of the money to come from a little group of people? You have a bigger resource out there. You have more people that can pay this. And so everybody will pay a little bit instead of a few paying a lot at the penalty of losing everything they have if they can't pay, if they can't afford to pay. I have elderly parents that can't afford. We want them to age in place. It's not going to happen if us kids don't help them. I have a son like you. I have a son that sends 5 kids to Christian school and yet has to pay for the public school curriculum that he abhors, which is why he sends them to Christian school. I have a 100% disabled son-in-law, veteran, right? Just like yourself, bothers the crap out of him that every year he has to go and remind himself that he's 100% disabled because he has to reapply for that exemption every year. Yep. Right? I mean, he's not going to get better. He's not going to lose that 100% disability, but there's just
total and permanent. And you can't tell. I just want to put that disclaimer out there too. You cannot see everyone's disabilities. And I appreciate that that state affords that to me. My husband is almost 100%. Like, there's just, yes, I am a veteran, but I feel everybody who people have given their service to their state or country in different ways. I can tell you, I think I've done more as an activist than I ever did in the military. And we should all have the ability to actually own our homes. We have land grabs across this country. I just watched a woman speak about what's going on in Oregon, Oregon, however you say it. And it was chilling. It was chilling to watch a woman talk about actually losing her family farm over this. And when you don't actually own your home, then you can deal with eminent domain and other issues. And it's a slippery slope. I feel the only way that we can rein in returning the money to ourselves that is hijacked from our paychecks and our homes is to eliminate these property taxes. We cannot get rid of all the other things.
Yeah.
But when we have an opportunity, I got to hold my Ron Paul mug when I say this. We have an opportunity to, through we the people of Michigan, sign a piece of paper and get this thing on the ballot. We have June 15th. That's like 7.5 weeks away. My birthday's June 14th. Do this. Just sign it. But I do have a couple questions coming in on the feed, and that is people who have petitions, where do they send it or where are they returning it to when they're complete?
Yep. 8451 Belding, Belding, Belding Road, Rockford, 49341.
I'm going to, if you can say that again. Whoops.
Yep, I will.
I'm going to write it down so that I can actually put it in the description when I go back. So could you give me the address once more?
8451 Belding, Belding, Belding Road, Rockford, Michigan, 49341. You know, Kristen, it's just, it is, there's so much more to this than we can even talk about. My presentations sometimes go an hour and a half, and then people just want to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. They all have stories. My phone never stops ringing. I've turned it off now. The stories that I've heard traveling across the state, they're heartbreaking. They're heart-wrenching. There's farmers that are losing their 4th and 5th generation farmers. I had a conversation with a sheriff, and I said, and he was in the Mackinac County, and I said, tell me I'm wrong. When you think about domestic violence, he doesn't make enough, she spends too much, they start drinking, they get in a fight. Domestic violence, addiction, depression, suicide, crime, right? A father who can't stand seeing his hungry kids anymore. He goes out and robs a convenience store for milk and bread and meat. He's not lunch meat. He's not robbing a bank to get wealthy. He's going down to a convenience store to feed his kids, because it's like, do I keep a roof over their head and pay that property tax bill that's down the road? Or do I feed my kids who are hungry and their faces are sitting right here in front of me? How much mental health, how much of that will go away? How much of all those mental health issues and all of those other issues, how much of that will go away if people never have to worry about losing their homes anymore? Because we all know we do not take care of homeless people. We are creating homeless people every day, and we do not take care of them. And when they become a burden onto the taxpayers, we are now going to spend $40,000 to $60,000 a year as a taxpayer trying to take care of those people that we have created homelessness for over a couple of $1,000s in property tax.
Well, as we wrap this up, I just want to point out once again, please go to the website, AxMiTax.org, or on Facebook, go to the group, AxMiTax.org. On the road, that is where Karla and team and supporters are sharing where you can sign, what she's doing. She's doing in-person Q&As and presentations. Some of them are on YouTube, on the AxMiTax channel. I would just ask people to really think about our economy right now. We have what is the saying? Oh my gosh, I'm having a Biden brain moment, but basically only focus on the things you can change, right? So we can't change the inflation. We can't change the percentage of interest on loans for homes or cars or anything. We can't change that. We can't stop all the government spending on programs we don't use, except what we can do is utilize this citizens-led petition initiative afforded to us. Please, everyone, grab one petition. Just get one petition. If everyone watching this just grabbed one sheet and got the names and you did it correctly, follow the instructions, don't fold it, send it back correctly, black ink, read everything, make sure the signatures are correct. I wish they were that scrutinizing with the ballots.
But voting. Anybody can vote, but we can't all sign the ballot.
So just remember, we have the ability to take control. So like I said, and I know this with you working in real estate, before COVID hit, we were going to move and we are going to build a barn dominium. I mean, I built my house virtually. I knew what I wanted to do. It was going to be cheaper than actually the house we're in now. But even if we wanted to move right now, my husband and I always talk, there's no way we could even downsize to a smaller home because the interest rate would lift our payment higher. So if you can remove the property taxes, when people go and buy homes and they have the numbers presented to them, they're not looking at how much more the property taxes are in their escrow. They're just looking at interest rate, insurance, gas, electric. Those property taxes are huge, and it just depends where you live. Before I moved back to Michigan, I lived in Naperville, Illinois, one of the most highly taxed areas. I paid more to rent a small apartment than my whole mortgage on my house here in Michigan. And some taxes, some places, East Grand Rapids, different, Ottawa County's booming. I know our taxes are going up here. So I know that we got a little spicy in this interview. We're spitting facts. Some of it's repetitive to people who've heard your talks. But I am telling people right now, please allow we the people a chance to vote on this, okay? If you are against removing property taxes, you are conveying to me that you really do not understand where all the taxes are collected and where they go. Not all property taxes stay in the local area. And I am not going to be funding ridiculous things 300 miles away. I don't like having to pay tolls, but when I go to Chicago a lot, I have an I-Pass. I pay to use that road. I am down for pay to play. That's constitutional. A lot of the taxes levied on us are not. We can finally do something about it. So please stop sharing disinformation. Stop spreading fear. There are petitions we've had gone through that you should have feared, but this is not one of them. And if you're a follower of mine, you know. And if you're against this, I'll tell you, just go hump a giant cactus. And Karla, if you could see my office wall right now, I have camels and cactuses all over with a sign made by my friend Jessie Green, who, by the way, is running for county commissioner. And she made a sign that says, if you know, because that's my PG-13 way of telling people, pay attention, go hump a cactus. But in all seriousness, you guys, let we the people decide. Don't use your power, your elected office position to dispel rumors. And I know that you do have legislators and you do have commissioners and you do have people that get this and are for it. So the sky is not falling, but it could be if we are continue to have our tax raised on us. It is very real that people lose their homes. It's very real that people don't move places because of the property tax rates. So those home improvements get half-assed. I'm a very much a root cause person. And I know one of the ways we can fix our economy in our state, improve mental health, enrich families and marriages is to really do an audit of what we need, what we don't need, rearrange funds, and put money back in the pocket so we the people can actually own our homes. So Karla, unless there's anything else you would like to say in closing, I just want to thank you for coming on here. And again, this will be available for replay. It will go on Rumble, X, Instagram, my YouTube channel, and my Facebook channel, and any other social media platform I failed to mention. It will be there.
Thank you so much, Kristen. And you know what? There's so much more that I would love to say, and I know we're running out of time, and I just appreciate the time that you've given me here. I don't even know what to say. What I want to say is we need to maintain private ownership of land, because once that is gone, all of our rights are gone as well, right? Mm-hmm. You won't need a Second Amendment gun right anymore, because once you become a tenant of the government, you will have no guns. If without private ownership of land, we have nothing, and we are losing our state piece by piece by piece. acre by acre, our state is being yanked out from underneath us. We're losing our farmland to solar and wind. We're losing the choice of where that solar and wind is going to go. And it's sucking up our most valuable agricultural land, which grows our food. I need food. The sun is my solar. The breeze is my wind. That's what we need. Those are God given. We don't need to make those. But the food that the farmers grow for us, we need that. We need that for our bodies, right? That is what we're trying to preserve here, is the right to own your own property, never live in fear of losing it, and to bring our state back to being a wealthy state instead of a welfare state, because we are so rich in so many resources, and we need to protect our state as well as our own private land.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you so much for taking the time. I know that you are spending so much time and money. So I want to remind people, you can donate. I'm spending $20. I'm going to go donate $20 after this interview concludes. If you can afford that, please do so. I am going to amend this live on every platform to provide the links of where you can mail your petitions back, where you can go to donate. And I just want to close it by reading the back of this book that I actually got from Karla, because it conveys what the proposal is in bullet points. This proposal: first, it constitutionally eliminates the state and local government's existing right to tax and seize private property in Michigan. 2, it will not require any new taxes or tax increases. And 3, it provides for the funding of essential services using existing tax dollars currently paid and collected by the state. And finally, it constitutionally increases and makes mandatory the percentage of taxes paid back to local municipalities through existing general revenue sharing policies, as Karla has explained it ad nauseum in all of her speeches. So Karla, thank you so much. Please watch this. If I know there's people that want to watch it later, everyone please share this. Like I said, it's going to be on every platform. So I know on Facebook doesn't like Rumble links. So please pay attention to where you're sharing information. All you Telegrammers, please link it. And Karla, thank you so much. And people, please donate. Skip a coffee, skip your Culver's concrete mixer, skip whatever your niche is, your little habit, because do you want to look back and go, what could I have done more? Because I'm vocal about this, but I don't even have a petition sheet. So I'm going to be getting one. I've been using my media to help you, but I need to get a sheet filled in my own neighborhood. And we have until June 15th, folks. We can do this. So Karla, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Kristen.
Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.